Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni says she has the answer to Africa's migration crisis, a multi-billion euro development initiative called the Mattei Plan. But is this a genuine partnership or just another European strategy to keep Africa at arm's length? Today, we're breaking down what this plan actually means for Africa, Europe, and for you watching this right now. Welcome to Just with Sherry, where we give commentary that goes where others won't. For decades, we have been talking about the unfair nature of the partnerships between certain European countries and Africa, and how those partnerships have exploited those African countries and, in the opinion of many, led to the massive migration crisis that we see going on now in Europe. Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, seems to agree with this notion. She has addressed it, and she is proposing a new deal called the Mattei Plan to try and right this wrong and address what she sees as a migration crisis going on in Italy. She's trying to get other European countries to also come on board. So let's talk about it.
Questo si chiama franco CFA. È la moneta coloniale che la Francia stampa per 14 nazioni africane alle quali applica il signoraggio e in forza delle quali sfrutta le risorse di questa nazione. Questo è un bambino che lavora in una miniera d'oro in Burkina Faso. Il Burkina Faso è una delle nazioni più povere del mondo. Per il Burkina Faso, che ha l'oro, la Francia stampa moneta coloniale. In cambio pretende che finiscano nelle casse del tesoro francese il 50% di tutto quello che il Burkina Faso esporta. L'oro che questo bambino si infila in un cunicolo per tirare fuori finisce per lo più nelle casse dello Stato francese. Allora la soluzione non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa, la soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che hanno.
The Mattei Plan is named after Enrico Mattei, the founder of Italian energy giant Eni, who once championed fairer oil deals with developing nations. Meloni launched this modern version in 2022, officially kicking it off at the Italy-Africa Summit in January 2024. Italy pledged over 5.5 billion euros for development, blending 3 billion euros from climate funds with 2.5 billion euros through the African Development Bank. The plan focuses on 6 main areas: education and job training to reduce youth unemployment, healthcare and telemedicine to expand access, water and agriculture using AI, desalination, and even aquaculture. Energy projects from gas pipelines to renewable solar and hydrogen. Infrastructure including satellite, internet, and new transport corridors. And finally, digital innovation with a new AI hub in Rome. The official goal? Address migration at its roots, so fewer Africans feel forced to risk their lives crossing the...
Strengthening Africa means strengthening Europe as well, building together the conditions for common stability. These are not initiatives dropped from above. These are concrete projects that were born out of dialogue, that were born out of a desire to create lasting development together with our African partners.
At a glance, the deal seems to be very interesting, to say the least. I've taken my time to look at it, and one of the first things I noticed is the deal will be very beneficial to Italy itself. It would, in many ways, enhance their economy, it would bring more opportunities, and I am not against that as long as Africa and the African countries that would be involved in this deal also get to benefit and get more opportunities. I think it should be mutually beneficial, 50-50. That's the way I see it, 50-50. So as long as it goes on that way and it is executed that way, then I personally do not have a problem.
It's not to take Africans and move them to Europe. The solution is to free Africa from certain Europeans who exploit it and allow these people to live off what they have. This is called the CFA franc, a colonial currency that France prints for 14 African nations, and by virtue of which it exploits the resources of this nation. This is a child working in a gold mine in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is one of the poorest nations in the world. For Burkina Faso, which has gold, France prints colonial currency. In return, it demands that 50% of everything Burkina Faso exports ends up in the coffers of the French treasury. The gold that this child crawls into a tunnel to extract mostly ends up in the coffers of the French state.
So far, Italy has signed deals with 14 African countries, launching projects like a biofuel program in Kenya, though it's already facing criticism, which we'll get into later. 320 million euros for the Lobito corridor, rail link connecting Angola and DRC, and new training programs in Ethiopia and Tunisia. Critics, including African Union Chair Moussa Faki, say the Mattei Plan is top-down and doesn't consult enough local voices. Some projects have already stumbled. Kenyan farmers, for example, were promised big profits from biofuel crops but earned a fraction of what was expected. Others warn this is less about Africa's development and more about Europe's migration politics. Basically, pay Africa to keep Africans from leaving. And then there's geopolitics. Italy is entering a space where China, France, and Russia already compete for influence. Can Rome really deliver? Criticism has already started coming in, which was to be expected. Some of it I think is fair, and some of it I think is probably politically motivated. You know, we cannot expect perfection, especially at the beginning. I think some details are going to have to be fine-lined and fine-tuned. I think they absolutely need the input of African leaders in the deal as well, because you can't just write up a deal that involves Africa from Rome without allowing their input. It's not going to be fair, and it's not going to put into consideration a lot of things that are particular to those specific African countries. So that's probably why there's been some backlash already. So I think if they can rectify that, that would help. Georgia has been visiting a lot of African countries. She started her tour, I call it tour, where she started visiting and talking and having conversations. So let's see how that goes. Let's see. It is not lost on me that if this deal goes through, it would make Italy a big player in Africa. Right now, I think the biggest players would be France, China, and Russia, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I would probably say the UK as well, but you know, I think the biggest of these ones. And Italy would be able to be a part of the big players. Again, I don't have a problem with it, but something else that could come from this deal, if well executed, is that other countries could see the benefit of these kind of fair deals and partnerships and follow suit. Because guess what? A lot of African countries have started revolting, aka Burkina Faso. We've seen what's happening there with Captain Ibrahim Traoré and France, Macron. And we have seen that starting to happen in other West African countries as well. So this is not just a matter of what's right and what's fair, but it's also a matter of the new time that is coming. There's a new era that is coming. And this new era, the way I see it, is going to involve Africa being treated as an equal partner. And if you don't jump onto that bandwagon quick enough, then you'll just be left out. So again, I do not know if this deal is going to be executed the right way, because that is what's going to determine at the end of the day if it's worth doing and if it's something that we actually are happy about. But I do think that it has potential. And I think if Macron and the other people like him actually have, I don't want to use the word and say if they're sensible, but if they are actually looking into the future and looking at what is happening, they would actually join into this new way of doing dealings. But as we know, he's very busy right now suing a podcaster in America because he got his feelings hurt. So I don't know if Macron will change his ways. All allegedly. So here's the big question. Is this a genuine partnership or a new style of economic control? 5.5 billion euros is significant, but is it enough to transform economies across 14 African nations? Will it actually reduce migration or just make Europe feel better about it? And will Africans have a real voice in shaping these projects? Or is this just old power dynamics with a new face? So what do you think? I want to hear your opinion. Do you agree with the Mattei Plan? Do you think that is coming from a genuine place, a genuine desire for partnership? Or do you think that it's just another European playbook to gain even more power and influence in Africa? I really want to hear your thoughts. Go to the comment section, like, share, and subscribe, especially if you want more stories like this. Old stories that you don't usually get to hear all over the news. And that's why people like me are here to talk to you, so that you can get stories like this right at your doorstep. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. Bless you so much. I send you blessings, love, peace, every good thing. Bye, guys. Mwah.